Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
Let's check in real quick because this wasn't included in your update here. Ohio of Miami and Jackson State squaring off in the Cure Bowl. What did I say?
You said Ohio of Miami. Oh, wow. What an interception.
Sorry.
Ohio.
Miami.
Miami of Ohio is a university.
Yes. Where I wrote that down somewhere. I wrote down that in my notes because for some reason I'm an idiot.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Well, happy 2025. Our 2025 is off to as good of a start as it is for the Oregon Ducks right now.
Yeah.
Welcome in, everybody. Apparently, some things with the computers decided to not do what they were intended to do there. Welcome back into the program. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully your new year is off to a better start than it is for us here, and if you are a member of an Oregon Ducks athletics team. Welcome into the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving here in the Score Sports Den. It is Nate Jarecki. I am Joey Keeran. It is great to have you with us here as we get a chance to recap everything that's been going on since last Friday, and there has been a lot. Happy New Year, Nate. How are you doing here in 2025?
You know, I wish I could say I'm doing great. Not a lot of great stuff from me over the past few days. Canada lost to the U.S. in the World Juniors on the 31st, and then the Ducks got blown out by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl on the 1st, and then yesterday, Oregon men's basketball just absolutely dominated by Illinois yesterday. The good news is the Toronto Maple Leafs did win a game yesterday. That's the only positive news I can report. But it just has not been a great start to 2025. Wow, oh my goodness. I'm going back. It's been that type of week. Can we go back to 2015? Honestly, the group chat yesterday, the Oregon Duck group chat I'm a part of, everybody had one clear message, and that message was, can we please go back to 2024? Because Oregon football was undefeated in the 2024 calendar year. They won the Fiesta Bowl against Liberty, and then they went undefeated throughout the entirety of the regular season and won the Big Ten championship in their first year. 2025 for the Oregon Ducks has just been bad.
Yeah.
And that's just the one way to sum it up.
There's no other way to put it. The Rose Bowl loss coupled with last night's loss against Illinois at Matthew Knight Arena for the basketball team, that was just ugly. It was definitely not the ideal start to the new year for the Oregon Ducks, and we're going to be breaking down plenty of that here on the program today. We've got Rose Bowl recap. Knight was down at the game, so he's going to have plenty of insight into all of that. College football quarterfinals did not necessarily, maybe they went exactly as you expected them to go. I don't think they did for many people. No. There were a lot of surprises of all of that. We've got none of the teams that got byes make it out of that quarterfinal round. We've got the bad start for Oregon that we can talk about. We've got some other topics on the agenda here today. Is the Mountain West, Knight brought this up moments ago, is the Mountain West going to be stronger than the new Pac-12 conference when it comes to football and other sports? And I just stumbled across this. My Tennessee Titans are just absolutely, they're in the number 2 spot in the draft order right now, and there's a lot of people hoping for a loss against the Houston Texans to wrap up the season this week for my Titans, but it's Tennessee, it's Houston, it's a matchup, and they're going to the throwbacks for the Titans because they're hosting the Texans.
Isn't this the second straight year they've done this?
Apparently they do this, it's kind of a regular basis that they do it against Houston. Is it disgraceful? Should they stop doing it? I've got this. We'll get to this in hour number 2, but I figured you might be somebody that might give some interesting input into that because,
love it.
You're a fan of you're a fan of teams that continue to move.
I'm also a fan of uniforms. I'm not a fan of teams moving.
No, you're not a fan of that.
Nobody is. I'm not a fan of that. I am a fan of a team that did relocate.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes.
I didn't want them to relocate. Just making it clear.
So we got a lot to get to here on today's program. A lot has been going on. Bowl season underway. We got one coming up here this afternoon as well. North Texas, I believe, is in action. It might be the Frisco Bowl. I looked it up moments ago, but
it's the First Responders Bowl in Texas at SMU's Gerald J.
So it's not
Ford
the Frisco Bowl, though. No, it's the First Responders Bowl.
It's the First Responders Bowl. And
There
then
we
later
go.
on tonight, we got Minnesota versus Virginia Tech in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Oh, my gosh. That is always a fun one because the winning coach gets mayo dumped on them.
And Will Levis will be the queen of the parade in the Duke's Mayo's Bowl there. So welcome in. We got a lot to get to. Did you go down to the Rose Bowl? Were you down there for what was the misery of Oregon and the loss to Ohio State? We'd love to hear from you. 541-673-5551 is the number. Just your thoughts of the whole process. Did you still have a good time despite the result? We'd love to hear from you if you were down there or if you just stayed here and watched the game. Your thoughts on Oregon, the future going forward. Man, would love to hear what you guys think and what you're feeling right now because that was brutal. 541-673-5551 is the phone number. You can also follow the program with us on our YouTube channel, 1490 The Score on YouTube. We are streaming. Hit us up in the comment section there. Duck fans, we'd love to hear from you. Beaver fans, feel free to chime in and gloat if you'd like. I mean, your team didn't get a chance to play in a bowl game, but so if you want to sling some mud, by all means, go for it, but get ready to get some back.
Honestly, dude, so the guy that's been commenting on our post, so I went down and we posted these Rose Bowl roundups each day. There was this guy for the last 2 days that commented on our Facebook post, "Go Buckeyes, go Ohio State." As soon as the game ended, all we got was a notification saying he laughed at our post saying, "It's game day." And then it was like, "It's a beautiful day for a football game." And he laughed at it. Like, he was full gloating. And we don't know if he's actually an Ohio State fan that just lives here in Douglas County. But if he's a Beaver fan, which probably is the more likely option, considering there is a lot of Beaver fans in Douglas County, he is certainly rubbing it in a little bit.
Yeah, he was having some fun with it. And, hey, I mean, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, a battle back and forth between two different programs. We knew based on the fact that, there was one win for Oregon early on during the regular season, and it was a tight one. We knew it was going to be we were hoping it would be another close battle. And so, that's the way it should be.
I think it was different than any expectations. The one thing I will say, though, if you're a Beavers fan and you're rooting against the Ducks, how easy is it for you, being an OSU fan, to say, "Let's go OSU"?
Yeah, I
for
mean,
Ohio
it's
State.
easy transition.
Very easy.
Very easy.
The only thing they would have made it easier if it was Oklahoma State, because then you could say, "Go OSU, orange and black," and it would have made things almost seamlessly an easy transition.
Almost there.
Almost.
All right, let's get into it. Those are the topics for today. A lot to get into here on our tailgate party. And so, as we like to do, we are going to fire this thing up by cracking a cold one.
Nothing gets a tailgate party going like a nice cold beverage. So let's crack one open and kick off today's show with our top story.
Taking to Jenkins again, and there is Smith roaming free, breaks a tackle. Ohio State strikes quickly from 45 yards.
Game over, man. It's game over.
They clicked tonight, we didn't, and I didn't get our team prepared, and that's a great team. When you play a great team like Ohio State, you can't not be clicking on all cylinders, and they were clicking on all cylinders. We didn't really have the ability to stop them and didn't have the ability to get something going for us on offense, and we haven't faced a lot of moments like that this year. It's an unbelievable team. Coach Day and his staff have done an unbelievable job there. Don't want to discredit what our players have been able to accomplish this year. We had a great team. We just ran into a great team tonight and we didn't play our best.
Well, that was the call. Reese Davis on ESPN, the opening touchdown for Jeremiah Smith, and it was all done after that. It was, in fact, game over, man. The final there, that was Dan Lanning in his post-game press conference. A lot of thoughts from Dan, and we'll get into some of those here coming up. Jeremiah Smith was your offensive player of the game. Cody Simon, the linebacker for Ohio State, named the defensive player of the game. Ohio State able to just cruise to a 41-21 victory. Knight, do you remember last Friday before you took off for California, before the Ducks were down in California as well. And we were getting excited for this matchup, and we ranked the 4 different quarterfinal matchups from first to fourth on the ones that we thought would be the most interesting. And we were not alone in saying that Oregon and Ohio State in the Rose Bowl would be the most compelling game of the quarterfinals. And what do you know? It was the most lopsided result of all 4.
You know, that's the perfect way to sum up this 2024-2025 football season, is that it's just unpredictable. You just don't know what's going to happen. The one thing I will say, though, pretty proud of myself for saying that ASU versus Texas could be a pretty close game. Because that was the largest spread, and I said, I don't know. I feel like this game could have the closest spread. I think that ASU could give Texas a shot. They debatably could have won that game. If there was a targeting...
Debatably should have won
that game. Because, well, who knows? Because they could have gotten the targeting call. They had already missed a couple of field goals in that game, so you don't know if they go down and actually kick a field goal and make it to win the game. Same thing that argument against Ohio State, whether or not Will Howard slid in time. Do they kick the field goal? Do they make it? You know, we don't know. A lot of Ohio State fans are saying, yeah, they're going to make the field goal, but we don't exactly know if they're going to make it or not. That's the thing about college kickers. Also, very unpredictable. But at the end of the day, like, ASU had a real good shot. They had 4th and 13 defensively, and they couldn't come through against Texas. I'm proud of myself for that one. But yeah, definitely wasn't expecting 34-0 Buckeyes in the first half against the Ducks. It definitely felt like a game going into it that if a team built a lead early on, they were probably going to hold on. But 34 points unanswered to start the game, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
You text me, you were sick to your stomach. Yeah. I said it was an ass whooping. You said they got trounced, which is our favorite word here in the building. It just, I don't know if there is.
Trounced wasn't even a strong enough
I was going to
word.
say, I don't know if there was language strong enough, at least not that we can use on the radio here with you today.
I don't know if you saw this, but Bill Oram, the columnist for the Oregonian, in his first paragraph, he said the Ducks were trounced.
Really?
One of the words.
Well, he's catching on.
He said a lot of different words. I think I have it somewhere. I screenshotted it to bring it up today. But he did say one of the words was trounced, and I was really proud of him for actually including that word. What he said was, Oregon was an absolute no-show, getting smoked, trounced, thrashed, and trashed. So,
okay.
That sums it up.
Yeah, it really did. It was not their finest hour. In fact, it was probably one of their... I think it's magnified because of the stage, because of their ranking, because they're undefeated, because of the matchup. All of that magnifies how bad they played and just how good Ohio State is right now. Ohio State's playing really good football right now. They've been a good team. We knew going into this was an extremely difficult matchup, and we might have had a little bit of bravado and faith in the team on Friday, but I think in the back of our minds, we knew the possibility was this game wasn't going to go Oregon's way. None of us necessarily expected Oregon to lay an egg like they did. I thinking back to it, I wrote down just first half notes. I stopped taking notes and really, not that I stopped paying attention, but I started paying less attention to the game. I started doing other things while watching the game in the second half.
I honestly don't blame you.
Yeah. Oregon just dominated up front. No room to move along the line. OSU's defensive line seemed to be everywhere. The front seven seemed to be everywhere. The player of the game defensively, I told you there, was Cody Simon. Dude was like, there were 2 of them out there, it felt like, throughout that game. Oregon looked lost defensively, at least through the first half, if not the entire game. Could not get to Will Howard. And it just, especially in that start, the 34-0 start, to dig yourself a hole like that, the thoughts to me, Oregon just failed on every aspect of the game. Offense, couldn't move the ball. Defense, they were chasing their tails everywhere. Yeah. And special teams, even trying to just flip the field.
Punt the ball.
Oregon couldn't punt the ball. Just everything I could see going into a big game if maybe a player is struggling, couldn't deal maybe with the stage, nerves, whatever, had a tough matchup. But every stage of the game for Oregon underperformed.
Yes. I mean, it just was an absolute no-show. That's exactly what it was. Nobody showed up in this game. Rushing the ball, finishing with negative 23 yards rushing. I don't think any of us expected that. Going into the game, I did tweet this out. One thing that stood out to me reading the Ohio State game notes was over the second half of the season, the 7 games since the Oregon game, Ohio State had just allowed 7 total touchdowns, with none of them coming via the pass. That just shows how elite their defense was in the second half of the year. And sure, Dylan Gabriel did end up throwing a touchdown pass.
Two
of them.
Yeah.
One at the end of the first half and then one to start the second half. And all of a sudden you're feeling like Oregon maybe has a little bit of momentum.
There was a chance.
Oregon got the ball back to start the second half. They scored a long touchdown drive. Took about 6 minutes, went down, scored, got a 3-and-out, got the ball back, and if you get the ball quickly and score a touchdown, all of a sudden you look up and it's 34-22 with about a quarter and a half to play. You're in that game. They didn't. They went 3-and-out again, and that was the big surprise going into this game. You knew that Oregon had the capability of going 3-and-out, but you didn't expect them to go 3-and-out on 4 of their first 6 drives of the game. I mean, Ohio State had more yards on their opening drive than Oregon did through their first 6 possessions. That's why it's 34-0. Mm-hmm. And we've seen the Ducks have the tendency to go 3-and-out. We just didn't see them doing that consistently drive after drive, and it happened in the worst possible situation in the biggest game of the year. I mean, Oregon had not been in a college football playoff game since 2014, when they also got trounced by the Buckeyes in the national championship game.
I was there for that one.
You were there for that one, and this one was worse. I can't think, I'm going to be honest. I've watched a lot of Raiders football this year, and it's been depressing. This Raiders football team in 2024 to now 2025 has just not been a very good football team. They just won back-to-back games. I'm telling you, I saw more on offense for the Raiders this season than I did in that first half for the Ducks. It was just absolutely abysmal. That was some of the worst football I've ever watched. From any team at any level, it was brutal seeing the Ducks out there. They couldn't do anything.
It was definitely unpleasant to watch going into such high hopes for the season. Really shocking and surprising to see how that all goes down. Oregon does finish the game outscoring Ohio State 21-7, 21 points, second most points allowed by Ohio State's defense all season. 32 is the most. That was Oregon when they beat Ohio State the first time around. So, I mean, on the grand scale of things, it doesn't look as bad as you might have thought, but when you're the number 1 team and undefeated, definitely expected more. So coming away from this, and we can get into some more of this here coming up in our next segment. Probably need to get to a break here in just a moment. But Oregon losing by 20 against Ohio State, as we just said, for the second half of this game, Oregon makes a bit of a comeback. They dig out of that hole. But at this point, they were down 34-0. I could totally buy Ohio State taking their foot off the gas, letting up a little bit, knowing that 34-0 is a pretty unsurmountable lead to try and come back from.
Want to know how confident Ohio State fans were, or at least the media was? The girl sitting next to me, Stephanie Ote, she works for 97.1 The Fan in Columbus. She bought her plane ticket to Dallas in the second quarter.
Yeah.
She was shopping for a dress for that next game. That's how confident when they were up 34-0, they were like, all right, that's it. Honestly, she was so confident that when it was 14-0, she said, okay, Ohio State's winning this game. There's no way that Oregon can come back from 2 touchdowns. That's how confident the Buckeye group was. And, honestly, that's the confidence they had going into that first game against Oregon at Autzen Stadium. They felt pretty good about their team, and they didn't fully play to their capability in that game. They didn't fully play in to their capacity against Michigan. But when it mattered the most in the college football playoff, they've been a wrecking ball. This is what we thought Ohio State could be. I mean, going into the year, you looked at the roster and you thought, wow, they have an NFL secondary. They have an NFL defensive line. They have debatably the best wide receiver room in the country. Is Will Howard good enough to propel this team to a national championship? I think he's good enough. He looked really good.
Yeah, he looked really good. And Dan Lanning says that he thought they would look like a team that could win it all. We'll have more comments from Dan here throughout the program as well. Oregon loses 41-21 against Ohio State. So we talked about the fact that it was a no-show on every aspect for the Ducks, at least through that first half, that put them in an insurmountable hole. Well, Dan Lanning took plenty of blame on that. Is that where it lies? What went wrong for the Ducks? We'll discuss as we come back here. We'll get Knight's thoughts on the Rose Bowl and being there as well. Maybe just the thoughts outside the game. We'll cover that. But did you go to the game? Your thoughts on Oregon? What'd you feel about coming back from it? Was it still a worthwhile experience for you to go down to Pasadena and catch the Ducks there on New Year's Day? We'd love to hear from all the Oregon fans out there, and hopefully you at least had some good memories to come back from with the Rose Bowl. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we will continue breaking down college football playoff action that we saw last week and what is going to be coming up here this week, this next week, I guess I should say, in the college football playoffs. It is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving here on The Score. Let's get you a Score Sports update with Knight Jarecki.
For your Score Sports update, I'm Knight Jarecki. In high school hoops, the North Douglas basketball teams got off to a strong start in the Bandon Dunes tournament on Thursday. The North Douglas boys defeated South Umpqua 58-47, and the North Douglas girls handled Myrtle Point in a 55-25 victory. The boys advance to face off against Bandon today in the tourney at 7:30 p.m., and the girls are taking on Coquille this afternoon at 3 p.m. The South Umpqua boys will try to bounce back against Lapine today at 1:30 p.m. The South Umpqua girls lost their tourney opener 44-34 against Pacific. The Lady Lancers continue play at noon against Sayus-Slong. In other games happening today, the Roseburg Indians return to the floor after the holiday break. The boys are in Troutdale to face off against the Reynolds Raiders at 6:30 p.m. The RHS girls will host Reynolds tonight at 6:45 p.m. You can tune in for coverage of the girls' game, starting with the pregame show at 6:30 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast online at 541radio.com. The Douglas boys and girls will host North Valley. The Oakland Oakers are hosting a holiday tournament for both boys and girls teams. Clyde squares off with Days Creek. The Oakland boys take on Oak Ridge while the girls host Elkton. And Camas Valley travels to Monroe for both the boys and girls games. On the wrestling mats today, the Roseburg Indians begin competition in the Doc B Invitational in Clovis, California. Check out the full schedule of today's events online at 541radio.com. In college hoops, the misery for the Oregon Duck fans continued yesterday. One day after the number 1 ranked Oregon football team was upset in the college football playoffs, the number 9 Oregon men's basketball team suffered one of its worst losses in more than half of a century. The Ducks lost to number 22 Illinois 109-77 in a Big Ten battle at Matthew Knight Arena.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Your total comes to $389, and here's $100 just for shopping with us.
Well, she's all full. Here's a brand new big screen TV just for stopping by.
These things don't just happen unless you listen to your local radio. We give away free prizes just for tuning in. Check out all the contest rules online at 541radio.com and score big just for listening to your station. The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Welcome back here to the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available. Book now at 541-315-0122, or you can find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Well, Knight Jarecki was down at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, where the weather was nice, but the results were not. Overall experience of being a media member down at the Rose Bowl down there.
Absolutely incredible. Oh, my gosh. The Rose Bowl organization, first class. Everything about it was phenomenal. Except for the first day where I missed media availability because the decks got there a little bit early, and they have this weird app. Don't get me wrong, it kind of was useful being able to go to an app and then it has the media schedule for the day, but the fact that they didn't update that media schedule and they sent out a notification, you click it, it just refreshed the homepage, and I missed the first day because of that. Other than that, like, phenomenal. The Granddaddy Lounge, that's where they had like the media hospitality, was incredible. Really good food. I had like smoked salmon. They had bagels with lox for breakfast one day. Really good food in there. I'd never seen this before, but in the media lounge, they actually had massage chairs, so you could like go and sit down and watch football in a massage chair.
Wow.
I did not take advantage of that. I probably should have. But I felt very out of place doing that. There was definitely some like folks there that were a little bit older, that were just there for the experience, that were abusing that. And they were enjoying it quite a bit. They had ping pong tables, they had pool tables, shuffleboards. For the media just to hang out and do that sort of thing. Events throughout. Media Day was incredible. They literally opened the floor up to everybody. You could talk to anybody really one-on-one. And
yeah,
so
that's pretty cool.
Getting to talk to some student athletes. The thing about that, the Media Day, is that like when you have an hour to talk to these student athletes, you can't just ask them all like, sports questions. You can ask them like fun questions too. And so, you're asking Justice Lowe about his GPA and that sort of thing, rather than just X's and O's types of questions. You're talking to Bryce Betcher about hunting around Douglas County, and that sort of thing, which was pretty fun. Trying to think, there was like some other fun. Oh, somebody just walked up to Dylan Gabriel and was like, "Yo, Dylan, my name's also Dylan, but I spell my name Dylan. Why is my name spelt better than yours, or why is your name spelt better than mine?"
Goodness.
Like, just really silly questions.
It's like the Super Bowl. It's like when they've got Super Bowl Media Day, and we've got this for an entire week where they're just constantly asking players questions. It's like we suddenly get to this moment. It's like, okay, maybe I'm wrong being the media and being the guy that should fight for our availabilities to be able to talk to players, but it's like, if we're just gonna be asking stupid, silly questions, like, I get like, hey, tell me more about you and let us find out more about you, maybe find out some other stories. But like, seriously, why is my name a better spelling of the name Dylan than your name? Like, okay, just let him go practice and study his game plan.
Right.
Maybe that would have helped Oregon get a better game plan in that in the Rose Bowl.
And the other thing too that I just didn't like was that like they literally opened up the floor for Dan Lanning for 30 minutes, and then the next day had another 30-minute press conference.
I'm sure it gets a little excessive for the coaches.
I feel bad for like the coaches, and then also like Dan Lanning and Ryan Day on the same podium up there. Like, they're not going to tell you anything. And that's exactly what it was. It was just like they basically just copied. It was funny watching that because both of them felt like they were waiting for the other one to answer the question first so they could go after and be like, I agree with what he said, and and just expand it like just slightly more.
Well, and Dan's such a pro at just saying something without saying anything. So but that's to be expected.
Insane amount of media. Great event overall.
Well, I mean, it was expected to be the big game of the weekend, and it fell flat, that is for sure. And the question I posed before we went to the break there was, who's to blame? If you ask Dan Lanning, which kind of not in those direct question, who's to blame, but Dan obviously had to answer for what happened out on the field over on Wednesday, and this was one of his responses on just exactly how this one all went down.
I just don't think we had a good enough plan as coaches, tonight, and we got to find ways to prepare ourselves for these moments, better as a coaching staff. But I love that team. I love that team in there. I love what those guys were able to accomplish. And what's tough is when you play great teams at the end of the season, somebody's not going to come out on top. And those guys came out on top tonight. Obviously that's a team I think that has the ability to go win it all.
Well, that was what we were saying earlier. Ohio State looks like they should be the favorite, and they are to win it all after the quarterfinal round going into the semifinals. Dan took a ton of blame in the post-game stuff, always saying, we didn't game plan enough. The talent is there. We didn't game plan well enough. We didn't adjust well enough. We didn't put them in the right spots and have the play calls the way they should be. I think it is worth noting, and I saw this pointed out by some folks after the game, that it's hard to win a national championship. Mm-hmm. It's hard to win in the playoffs. And it is this is year 3 or 4 for Dan? I keep forgetting to look this up.
Year 3.
This was year 3.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, was year 3 for Dan Lanning at Oregon. And what has he done? He has had them contending for a Pac-12 title, his first 2 years.
He's improved every single season.
Now he's won a conference title in his 3rd year. And he has had them into the college football playoff. Yes, going into the playoff, Oregon undefeated, number 1 seed. We all thought this could be the year. But it's year 3 for Dan. He is a first-time head coach. He's now in year 3, but this was his first head coaching job. There's a learning curve. And I mentioned about a lot of the big names in coaching, Saban, Kirby, Harbaugh, some of these guys that are big names in coaching that, they didn't do it in their first year as a coach in college. It took a while. And once you get established, that's when things can get going. Look at where Georgia is. Look at where Alabama, Alabama new coach, but, it's hard. It's not like you just get there and suddenly you can start knocking off national championships. So,
yeah,
look
at Ryan Day. How long has he been at Ohio State? And, sure, people say that he was born on third base, and he has kind of just kept the momentum of the program, but he hasn't done anything exceptional. He's still searching for his first national title. It takes a long time.
He's still searching for a win over Michigan. He's the national. I don't know if he's gotten a win over Michigan at some point, but I know that they've lost, 3-4 straight to them?
4 straight.
Like
Jack
that,
Sawyer has not beaten Michigan. He went there for 4 years.
So
that's why he came back. That's the sad thing.
So it is tough, and there is a learning curve. And just because you have great players and just because you got a number 1 next to your name doesn't guarantee you anything. And nope. I think it's unfortunate, but Oregon had its worst day, and maybe Dan Lanning had his worst day as a head coach. Now, I will give him a little bit of a leash in saying that, you had a bad day. Yeah, this is going to be something. It's not like you just figure it all out in one after being a head coach for 1 season. There is a learning curve and learning how to be competitive at these levels. And so he continues to take, like you said, he gets better each year. But the thing that just absolutely shocks me is how bad it was for Oregon and how good Dan Lanning has been at getting his team motivated, having his team. You don't go 13-0 just by luck. You had to have your team there. We've seen this with Oregon year after year after year after year. You have a good team, and then suddenly there is one game that comes out of nowhere and trips you up, and it's a bad loss on your record. Oregon, every season is going to give you that moment. And Oregon made their way through it this year.
They never really had a bad loss like this the last 2 years. They lost to Georgia. Game number 1 under Dan Lanning was the worst loss that Oregon football had up until this past weekend. After that point, close loss against Washington, year number 1. They blew the game against Oregon State also year number 1. And then you had a couple of tough losses to Washington last year.
Yeah.
Oregon didn't really have a ton of quote unquote bad losses.
They haven't had any flops.
Under Mario Cristobal, different story. You're losing to ASU.
And through the years, there's
playoff position.
There's just been, when there's been years where it felt like Oregon really was a team that could be a team of destiny, there was always just kind of that one game that it's like a head scratcher. Whoa, where did that come from? And this year, every year is going to give you an opportunity to have that. And Dan Lanning found a way to dodge the minefield, to navigate the season, and keep Oregon undefeated. So it is just absolutely stunning that look, not that Oregon lost in the Rose Bowl, but it's absolutely stunning how they lost in the Rose Bowl.
100%. Now, here's one thing that I thought was really interesting. And, I was at Media Day and I was at these media events all week. And I hadn't really heard about this up until I got into the game, and the Ohio State media was talking to me, and they were asking me about this quote-unquote flu that may be going around. Did you hear about this at all?
I did not
So
whatsoever.
I didn't hear about this rumor at all. Apparently, this started up on Facebook, and you know how Facebook Duck fans can be. So, I don't know how true it is, but there was a rumor circulating around that Oregon had the flu going around, and that's why Dan Lanning did not have his voice at the beginning of the week. Remember those press conferences, and everybody was like, oh, he's just going really hard on the team. He's screaming a lot. He's losing his voice that way. There's a good section of Ohio State media that just truly believed that Oregon had the flu this week, and there was a lot of players that were just sick, and that's why Oregon didn't come out and perform the way they did. I don't know if that's true. I didn't hear anybody from the Oregon side saying that, but certainly during the game, that was a rumor that was definitely being circulated around and why Oregon didn't come out and perform to the best of their ability.
I mean, it would help explain some
of it.
I don't think that's Dan's not going to use it as an excuse. I think that's exactly why you probably haven't heard it from him. But I mean, it would help explain.
But Dan never makes excuses.
No, he doesn't.
He just straight up came out. And they tried to, give him so many opportunities to throw the college football playoff under the bus and the format. And
yes.
This was a topic all week, and he didn't really care. He was just like, that's another excuse. We can just, we have to be the best to beat the best to be the best.
Yeah, here it was in his words exactly when asked, hey, what'd you think about the pathway you guys had in the college football playoff?
We had an opportunity. We didn't take advantage of our opportunity. I'm not going to make excuses for our opportunity, right? And ultimately, you got to be great teams to be in position at the end of the year, and we didn't do that. This is the road that we had to travel, and they did it better than us tonight. So no complaints for us for having that opportunity. They just took advantage of it, and we didn't.
Yeah, exactly. There it is. That is, that's what his message was the entire time. We didn't take advantage of the opportunity. We didn't game plan well enough. We didn't perform well enough. You can call it rust. You can call it a bad draw in the playoff bracket. None of that matters. It was us. We didn't do what we needed to do here tonight.
No.
And, I commend him for taking ownership on that.
You should. As a coach, you got to take accountability.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I will say is that, I've not necessarily listened to the most amount of Ryan Day press conferences, but I did earn a little bit of respect for Ryan Day this week.
Yeah.
The way that he handled himself, and he didn't take credit for the win. He was like, Chip called a good game. I got the guys ready, but all this is the players. The players showed up and played really well, and, they're the ones that should be taking credit. You guys shouldn't be asking me questions. You should be asking the players questions because I didn't really do anything except tell them where to go and be there at the certain time and just kind of direct them down the road, but the players are the one that laid the path. And I like that. I like that from a coach. A little bit of respect for Ryan Day this week because I feel like there's been a negative aura around Ryan Day, especially the way that he handled the Michigan game with the brawl in the field and he's just kind of standing there in disbelief. But no, he actually is a little bit of a softie. He literally, probably the quote that I remember the most is he said, when times get tough, you got to hold on to your loved ones, and when they get tougher, you got to squeeze harder and hug them even more. And it felt like he was really doing that to his players, to his staff, to his family. It felt like he was just a little bit of a softie, wanted a hug and held on. So a little bit of respect for Ryan Day.
The Oregon Ducks bow out of the playoffs, a 41-21 loss in the Rose Bowl. Coming up this next week, 1 week from today, it'll be Ohio State and Texas 1 week from today, meeting in the Cotton Bowl. On Thursday this next week, Penn State and Notre Dame meeting in the Orange Bowl. Let's take a look at the rest of the college football playoff bracket when we come back as we wrap things up here. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. We wrap things up for the first hour of the program. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Good afternoon with the Score News Update. I'm Knight Jarecki. A winter weather advisory is in effect from 4 p.m. tonight through 10 a.m. tomorrow for mountain areas in parts of southern Oregon. Forecasters at the National Weather Service said snow above 3,500 feet is expected. Total snow accumulations between 7 and 12 inches are projected. The highest mountain elevations could have up to 16 inches of snow. Winds will gust as high as 45 miles per hour. The advisory area includes the south central and southern Oregon Cascades and Siskiyou Mountains. It applies to Crater Lake, Diamond Lake, Highway 51 at Willamette Pass, and portions of Highways 62, 138, and 140. Motorists should slow down and use caution while traveling. Call 511 or visit tripcheck.com for updated road information. And a Glendale woman was jailed for an alleged assault and weapon incident on Thursday. 36-year-old Melissa Herman was reportedly charged with second-degree assault, unlawful use of a weapon, and menacing. She was detained without bail. In sports, the Roseburg basketball teams are back in action after the holiday break. The boys are in Troutdale to face off against the Reynolds Raiders at 6:30 p.m. The RHS girls will host Reynolds tonight at 6:45 p.m. You can tune in for coverage of the girls' game, starting with the pregame show at 6:30 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast online at 541radio.com. Tons of other games happening today. Check out the full prep schedule online at 541radio.com. Taking a look at the weather today, showers likely, cloudy with a high near 52 degrees. Tonight, showers before 1 a.m., then rain, a low around 43 degrees. Tomorrow, 80% chance of rain, a high near 50 degrees. Tomorrow night, rain mainly before 10 p.m. with a low around 45 degrees. News and information is available 24/7 at 541radio.com. I'm Nate Jarecki, here on The Score.
I love playing sports, especially for my school. And that's because school sports are special. It's where it's safe to fail. It's where we're taught resilience, where our fear becomes confidence. It's where we learn to get back up after every fall. School sports are where 7.8 million students go from I can't to I can.
This message presented by the OSAA and the Oregon Athletic Directors Association.
Applications are now being accepted for the 2025 Pitch Night Series, presented by the Umpqua Economic Development Partnership. Go to umpquagrowthtalks.com before January 30th and tell us about your business or business idea. You could be chosen to pitch to a panel of judges at our first event, March 6th. 4 presenters will share $2,000 in prizes. The top 2 move on to the finals and a shot at sharing a $10,000 prize pool. Get all the details and apply for Pitch Night today at umpquagrowthtalks.com.
Texas outlasted Arizona State in double overtime, 39-31. And then you had Penn State eliminating Boise State, 31-14. Notre Dame knocking out Georgia, 23-10. You were down at the Rose Bowl dealing with media. Yeah. There was a lot of national media down there covering that game, as we said. We thought it was going to be the biggest game of the weekend. I'm kind of curious about the Sugar Bowl gets postponed one day. You know, was that a topic of conversation much in the circles you were kind of going around about, just kind of what was going on in New Orleans?
You know, a lot of people didn't really actually know what was happening because we were all kind of focused on preparing for the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And then it was kind of like, oh, the Sugar Bowl is getting postponed. Like, what kind of happened? Personally, like, I had like a few minutes to like actually read a little bit in the morning on my drive over. And so I read a little bit about like the incident going into it, and then I saw that there was like a potential that it was going to get postponed, and then it did get postponed, and then kind of in the middle of the game, it was like, oh, they're going to move it up a little bit earlier, and so the game kicked off at 1 o'clock instead of 4 o'clock or 5:40 like originally scheduled. So that there was certainly a little bit of murmurs around that, not a ton. Honestly, everybody was focused on the ASU game. They had that up on the press box, and they had all these big TVs. Now, here was the tough part is that like where I was in the press box, I was on like the far right side of the press box.
Okay.
On the south end zone. They have 2 press box, one on the south side, one on the north side, but we were on the south side, and then I was on the far right side of it. There's about 3 different sections of rows. The sides on the far left, they were about 3 seconds ahead of the side on the right. And so every time that anything happened to the ASU game, we could hear like people on the left side start to like either get excited or like make something. Like when the doink went off the upright, you just heard people like, oh, and then like all of a sudden we looked up and we like see our TV, and then it hits the post, and so it kind of was a little bit of a spoiler being on the right side of the press box.
Welcome to this day and age where you've got a friend that's got cable and he's watching it. You're watching it on a streaming platform. You guys are all texting each other, and one guy's at the game, and he's like, "Oh man, I can't believe that!" And you're like, "What's happening? What's happening?"
Yes.
Oh, something amazing happened. You get it 2 minutes later.
No, and the other tough part too about the streaming thing, because that's certainly happened to us, where you've texted me and you've been over the air, and I've been like watching it on YouTube TV. But the other tough thing too about like streaming it is that you think you're live, and then all of a sudden your phone gets a notification or something like that.
Or I was with the Rose Bowl, we were streaming it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, this is just... So I went to go to Twitter just to look, and I was like, oh, yep, Ohio State's about to convert this third down here, because I totally forgot that, my Twitter's going to be ahead of where the game is on my TV.
The other tough part, too, is like when you're using DraftKings and you're watching the game and it updates. And
you're trying to live bet. Yeah.
Not even just live bet, but even just like looking at your bets that you currently have, and you're like, you look at the app and you're like, all right, well, he needs 16 more yards. And then you see him get like a 16-yard play, and you're like, yeah. But then you realize that was like included already.
Man.
The struggles of the streaming age.
Yeah, our third world problems here, or first world problems, I mean. You were right on with that Texas and Arizona State game.
Yeah,
man, good job. Kenny Dillingham, you want to talk about a coach that is making the most of what they've got going on. Good for him. Texas, though, does move on. You've got Texas and Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State's the odds-on favorite. I just saw something that they're like almost even money on the odds to win it all now after they're dominating. I think just the way they beat Oregon, everybody's like, whoa. Now, can they avoid the letdown of what they had against Michigan? I mean, look, I think the one thing that you kind of have to keep in the back of your mind is that we've seen Ohio State not play like Ohio State a couple of times this season. I mean, that game against Oregon the first time around, they didn't look bad. They just didn't come up with the play they needed when they needed it at the end. But against Michigan, like, what happened there? So can they keep it focused and locked in? I mean, I would say that I believe that they would, but I got to imagine you're not giving Texas any chance in this one.
No, I really don't. I'm not high on Texas. Like,
they
haven't beaten anybody. Like, if ASU is your best win, like, it doesn't scare me. You know, Georgia didn't look good against Notre Dame. Like, I'm not that confident in Texas. The one thing I will say is this is going to be a road game for Ohio State.
Yeah.
I understand. Actually, one thing I learned this week, at least talking to the Ohio State reporters, were that Ohio State was voted the largest fan base in the country.
Yeah.
They have the most amount of fans, and they certainly travel. I mean, they didn't travel that well to the Rose Bowl compared to Duck fans. Like, there were more Oregon fans there than Ohio State fans. Also, you kind of have to say, like, Oregon did have a little bit more time to prepare for the Rose Bowl. Their fans had numerous weeks.
And their fans had already gone to one playoff game, a home game, granted, you know, so you would assume for most of their fan base, not as far of a travel, more easier to plan for.
I was surprised, though. Like, I mean, if you look at just the straight numbers, Ohio State has over 2 times as many active alumni than Oregon. They have 3 times as many students, meaning that every 4 years, there's 3 times the amount of alumni graduating from Ohio State compared to the University of Oregon. But the Duck fans, being on the West Coast and having an extra week to prepare for the trip to Pasadena, they showed out. It was about 60 to 40 Oregon fans being there. Really impressive stuff. But on the other side, like, if you're a Ohio State fan going to Texas, you're playing Texas in Texas at Jerry's World. Like, University of Texas doesn't play many games at Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, and that's going to be a big orange turnout.
I got to imagine that place is going to be packed with Longhorn. I mean, we know they're crazed. That place is going to be jumping with Texas fans. So we'll see if that atmosphere does have some effect in that. I mean, you mentioned Oregon had more fans there at the Rose Bowl.
I mean, Tennessee had a lot of fans at Ohio State. And
did not
really
affect anything whatsoever for Ohio State, who was firing on all cylinders. So, I would say probably in that one, I got to feel like I'm a heavy lean initially here on Ohio State to take care of business against Texas. Penn State and Notre Dame. I mean, we're down to the final 4 teams, and the question always is, who are you rooting for? Not necessarily who do you think is going to win it all. I mean, these are 4 blue bloods of college football. It's interesting. I did see pointed out that Ohio State's title in 2014, which is 10 years ago, is the most recent national championship for any of these 4 programs.
Yeah. This is the first time. I mean, this year there's going to be a first-time head coach winning a national championship.
The sad thing is it's not. We will not get a first-time national championship program. The opportunity for a team to win their first ever college football national championship
ended with the Ducks.
Yeah, that they were the last hope there. Yeah, for sure. Going into that final day, Arizona State, Boise State would have been a chance there as well. But so Penn State, Notre Dame on the other side. The hard part is here is
you know what the other crazy thing too is that if ASU would have won, you would have had no SEC teams in the Final Four.
Crazy. And as it is, you don't have any traditional SEC teams in there.
Yeah,
Texas is in kind of almost by name only right now. I mean, they are first year. Like, they're like still almost linked to the Big 12, right? Like, I mean, are they really SEC? I mean, they were in the SEC
They
title
competed
game,
in the SEC this year, but like it wasn't like they had like a ton of signature SEC wins.
So, yeah,
who was Texas's best win this year? Like, thinking about it, like in the SEC, they lost to Georgia twice. They beat Texas A&M. Could you say A&M was? But like their SEC schedule, Kentucky, Arkansas. They beat Florida, but Florida wasn't that good this year. Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. That was a traditional game for them. And Mississippi State. Like, who are the traditional blue blood programs they beat in the SEC? They didn't beat Georgia. They didn't beat Alabama. They didn't beat Auburn. They didn't beat, a lot of teams. Ole Miss.
Arkansas.
Tennessee, they didn't beat. Like, oh God, Texas did not have a signature win.
Mississippi State and Arkansas are the two that, I guess.
No, I mean, like, for me, it's Florida.
A&M.
A&M. But
just
I know
tradition.
that A&M's been in the SEC for a few years, but it's not like A&M's been this like dominant program. And Florida hasn't been good in a number of years, and their program's on the rise a little bit. They ended the year pretty strong, especially with DJ Lagway coming in and the success they had with him at the end of the year. But I think Florida still finished 7-5, 8-5, somewhere around that range. It's not like Florida was like the best SEC team this year. And when Texas played Florida, Lagway was not the quarterback. It was a 4-5 Florida team that they were playing out there. They didn't have a signature win.
Florida went 4-4 in the SEC, 8-5 overall. So, yeah, I mean, it is crazy. They talked about it on Dan Patrick this morning, and he said, he didn't think that the SEC is falling off, that they are losing, not that they are bad now by any means, but that everybody else is starting to get up to that level, and that, it used to be that teams in the SEC, the big-name teams in the Big Ten, you could stockpile talent because guys wanted to play at those big brand names, and you just knew you had to wait your turn. Now, transfer portal is like NIL. You can go and play and get recognition and earn money anywhere now. Yeah. And so it's
and it's a free-for-all. You can transfer at any time. You can sign with a team, and just a few weeks later, you can enter the transfer portal. Even a week later, you can get out of your signed agreement. It's ridiculous. Free agency's 24/7, it feels like.
It really does. So here as we wrap up the hour number 1 of the program, 4 teams left. Who is the team you feel like you might be rooting to try and win it all here as we wind it down?
I
don't want to root for any of these teams necessarily, but
yeah, for me, I'm gonna pick Penn State. Got to back the Big Ten a little bit. Oregon beat Penn State in the Big Ten football championship. We know about my documented history of hating Ohio State, and it's going to be fueled even more after this week. So give me the Nittany Lions. I rooted for them a little bit throughout high school. I like Drew Aller. I like the program that they're heading. I think it'd be awesome for James Franklin, just for him. And, he's been on the hot seat quite a bit. And if he can come through and win the big game and win this path for the Nittany Lions, I think it's big for that program. I definitely am rooting for whoever wins the Penn State Notre Dame game. Those are the two, and I think I lean more Nittany Lions than Irish because of the Big Ten ties.
Yeah, I kind of am agreeing with you there. I kind of was feeling like Notre Dame for a bit there, but at the same time, I feel really bad about rooting for Notre Dame. So
I don't. I actually like Notre Dame. I don't mind the Irish. They do their own thing. They're kind of just independent. So they're just kind of there.
Yeah.
And I know that they have the NBC contract, but it's not like I'm locked in on Notre Dame. It's not like a lot of us are locked in. Who did they play this year? Their best game in the regular season was
I think I have to look at it and go, which fan base is going to be the least insufferable if their team wins at all? And and I think Penn State, I kind of was looking at it.
We live on the West Coast, so we're definitely away from the Penn State fans. Don't get me wrong; those fans are also very toxic.
I'm sure they probably are, but it does feel like that one would be the least. We're new to the Big Ten, so I might be way off base on this.
No, you're totally right on that. Penn State fans, they would be rude to Michigan, and they would be rude to Ohio State fans. They would not be rude to Oregon fans if they won the national championship. I think that is okay.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of where I'm going. So I was looking at it. Initially, my thought was Penn State. I might have to change it to Penn State now. I do have a buddy that's a Texas. Texas is his second team. He's an Oregon guy. He went to Oregon, so he is Oregon. But for some reason, he's got a fandom for Texas. So I kind of want to see him have good things happen. I don't know. We'll be back with hour number 2 coming up here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Nate Jarecki. In high school hoops, the North Douglas basketball teams got off to a strong start in the Bandon Dunes tournament on Thursday. The North Douglas boys defeated South Umpqua 58-47, and the North Douglas girls handled Myrtle Point in a 55-25 victory. The boys advance to face off against Bandon today in the tourney at 7:30 p.m., and the girls are taking on Coquille this afternoon at 3 p.m. The South Umpqua boys will try to bounce back against Lapine today at 1:30 p.m. The South Umpqua girls lost their tourney opener 44-34 against Pacific. The Lady Lancers continue play at noon against Siuslaw. In other games happening today, the Roseburg Indians return to the floor after the holiday break. The boys are in Troutdale to face off against the Reynolds Raiders at 6:30 p.m. The RHS girls will host Reynolds tonight at 6:45 p.m. You can tune in for coverage of the girls' game, starting with the pregame show at 6:30 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast online at 541radio.com. The Douglas boys and girls will host North Valley. The Oakland Oakers are hosting a holiday tournament for both boys and girls teams. Clyde squares off with Days Creek. The Oakland boys take on Oak Ridge while the girls host Elkton. And Camas Valley travels to Monroe for both the boys and girls games. On the wrestling mats today, the Roseburg Indians begin competition in the Doc B Invitational in Clovis, California. Check out the full schedule of today's events online at 541radio.com. In college hoops, the misery for the Oregon Duck fans continued yesterday. One day after the number 1 ranked Oregon football team was upset in the college football playoffs, the number 9 Oregon men's basketball team suffered one of its worst losses in more than half of a century. The Ducks lost to number 22 Illinois 109-77 in a Big Ten battle at Matthew Knight Arena.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Struggling to find good help? Streamline your recruitment all in one place. Lotus Media Group. With our innovative and time-tested solutions, you can reach candidates across all platforms by utilizing the power of print, radio, and digital advertising, and elevate your hiring game with Indeed, Google Jobs, ZipRecruiter, and over a dozen more. Whether you're a small or large business, we have flexible pricing packages to fit any budget. Indeed, we do. Visit nrtoday.com/recruitment and let us do all the work for you.
At Midas, you'll find all the expertise you need to take care of your car. From advanced engine diagnostics and major repairs to oil changes, brakes, and maintenance. You can count on Midas to tell you what needs fixing now and tell you what stuff can wait. So whether your check engine light just went on or you remembered that it's time for your regularly scheduled oil change, now's the time to head over to your locally owned and operated Midas on 1068 Northeast Stevens in Roseburg. Because when your car isn't working right, you just need someone who can help make your life a little easier. Trust the Midas touch.
Local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays, noon to 2, right here on 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. We're The Score, Douglas County's home for sports. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
Let's check in real quick because this wasn't included in your update here. Ohio of Miami and Jackson State squaring off in the Cure Bowl. What did I say?
You said Ohio of Miami. Oh, wow. What an interception.
Sorry.
Ohio. Miami of Ohio is a university.
Yes. Where I wrote that down somewhere. I wrote down that in my notes because for some reason I'm an idiot.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Welcome back here into the Score Sports Den.
Oh.
I had to catch myself there. Matt Jarecki over there. I'm Joey Keeran. Great to be with you here on this Friday. Happy New Year, everybody. January 3rd for us here in 2025. And when was the last time you had to write a check, Knight?
Write a check?
Like an actual physical check out of your bank account.
Okay, so I've never written an actual check. However, I've gotten cashier's checks.
You've never written an actual check.
No.
Isn't that special? I was
earlier
this week and on the news station, Kyle and I were talking about things, and I was like, it's a new year, so you got to write the 2025 instead of 2024. And I was like, that doesn't really seem to come up as often now that I'm not a student where you're taking notes or writing a paper or something by hand, or the fact that you don't write checks really at all anymore.
Well, here's the thing is that at one point, I think last year I was looking to get a checkbook, and they were like, it's going to cost you $1,000 for a checkbook.
What?
And this was with Bank of America, and I was like, I'm not going to do that. So then I avoided getting a checkbook there, and then
that doesn't make any sense.
And so for my apartment I'm at now, there's no direct deposit. You have to have a cashier's check.
Yeah.
And so
that's typical there.
And it is very typical. So I have to go to the bank and I get them to issue me a cashier's check, and that's the closest I've come to actually quote unquote writing a check. But I've never written. I don't do you
That's what I was. It was just the new year. It's 2025,
do you still
and so
balance
writing
a checkbook?
something.
Do you have a checkbook? Yeah.
I didn't balance a checkbook when I actually used my checkbook.
Yeah.
I did keep a ledger, but did I balance it? No, I did not. So it's just now you can go online and manage your accounts there instead of having to keep a physical tally of what you've spent and what you've put in to be able to know how much money you have in your bank account without actually physically going to the bank.
Well, and the other thing too is with the online banking, you also have the option for Zelle or Venmo, and you can just wire money from an account to another person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a lot easier, whether it be Apple Cash as well. There's numerous ways to share money digitally. The only way that it gets a little bit tricky is if you're doing it internationally. So for me, when I go back to Canada and I visit my family, if I go out with my cousins and it's let's split the meal. I can't just Venmo them money because you can't.
Your currency's in a different form than there.
A different form, and there's no digital app where you can automatically
convert. Yeah.
So that's a little bit tricky. I will say though, it is a little bit fun because I remember I was at a bar in this tiny town just north of Belleville, Ontario, and there was a performer there playing music, and I gave like $2 American money, but that was like about $3 Canadian. And so he was ecstatic that I gave him American cash instead of Canadian cash because the Canadian dollar is just crumbling right now.
Oh, boy. Well, welcome back here into the program. It is 2025. If you do have to write a check or sign any sort of document with a date, remember it is 2025. Welcome into the new year. Hopefully, as we mentioned at the start of the program, your year is off to a better start than it is for the Oregon Ducks. The Rose Bowl doesn't go their way. A historic loss on the basketball floor for the men's team last night against Illinois. I was there for that. Thankfully, I was sitting next to the Illinois broadcasters. They were in a great mood. That was fun for them. Could not believe the Ducks lose by 32 as the number 9 team in the country.
What do you think was more surprising? Oregon getting blown out by Illinois or Oregon getting blown out by Ohio State?
The Ohio State football result. I mean, you're number 1 in the country. Look, those are 2 good teams in the football field. Those are 2 good teams in the basketball court, too. Illinois basketball net rankings, which
top 10.
They used to put together for the bracket for the NCAA tournament. Oregon and Illinois were 1 and 2 in the Big Ten in net ranking. So that was a good matchup. But one team showed up and the other one didn't. So it's been a couple of duds here to start out 2025 for the Oregon Ducks. But I want to start off hour number 2 here. By the way, you can be a part of the program if you'd like to. 541, I don't give this out enough, but 541-673-5551. That is the phone number. You can give us a call here in the Score Sports Den and share your thoughts with us here at the Tailgate. And that is 541-673-5551. You can also hit us up on our YouTube channel, 1490 The Score on YouTube. We are streaming there right now. You can share your thoughts in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you guys. We had a couple of comments there in the first hour. Biggest disappointment from the Rose Bowl was that Lanning didn't get a chance, didn't put in seniors and underclassmen to give those guys that maybe don't get a lot of playing time the opportunity to be out there at the end of the season. You knew eventually that it was obviously not going your way, so you like to try and give the guys opportunity. I mean, did Dante Moore get a chance to play in that game at all? I don't think he did he?
No, he didn't. Oh, actually, he did for one play. You know what they did?
The throwback play?
Yeah, they threw it right back to Dylan Gabriel, and it was incomplete. And it was like, geez, you put him in for one play, and that's what you're going to do? Actually, one thing I did want to note is that it's been tossed around quite a bit that Dylan Gabriel didn't get fully protected in the game, that he was sacked a ton. And don't get me wrong, he had 8 sacks in the game. Jeez. Ohio State only had 1 sack in the first half. They had 7 sacks in the second half of football. It wasn't like...
that's the half of the football that Oregon actually played well.
And that was the half of football that Oregon actually played well. So people were like, oh, well, Oregon didn't protect well enough. Dylan Gabriel didn't just have enough time. Yeah, he did. He did. It was just in the first half... They went 3 and out 4 out of their first 6 offensive possessions.
Nobody was getting open on the back end. The run game was opening nothing up. I mean, let's note as well, Oregon not at full strength, and whether or not there was this apparent flu that maybe went through that rumors were out there about, or the fact that Evan Stewart, apparently leading up to the game at some point, gets injured. They were hoping that he could go.
He had apparently a back injury, and then he re-aggravated it during warm-ups, which honestly surprised me because I sent you that video. At Media Day, he was like the funnest guy around. They gave him a camera, and he was running around with the camera.
Maybe he shouldn't have been running around.
Maybe
Come
he
on,
wasn't.
Man.
You want to know another, as Josh Payton says, like a paper popper stat, is that in this game, going into that final drive in the first half, where Oregon went down and scored the touchdown and got the 2-point conversion at the very end of the half. Right before that drive, Ohio State was outgaining Oregon 390-64.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
No, the stats are they are not good for sure. So, it was not the game we were all hoping for in that one. But if you've got thoughts on that, share them with us, 541-673-5551. If you went to the game, we'd love to hear more about your experience down there. Knight got a chance to go down. He was up in the press box, so a little bit different experience than being down in the stands. I had friends that were there that went down, took the family down for that.
Yeah.
The first half of that game, I was like, man.
So
we've got like a text group and whatnot. I was fighting the urge to say, well, at least I didn't buy tickets to go down to this game and take the whole family.
Dude, right? Right. So here, like my dad came down with me and drove down with me and whatnot. They waited outside. Like he just parked outside and didn't buy a ticket. And he was he was looking at the ticket prices beforehand and like seeing like, okay, well maybe they're down to like $125, but I'd have to be in the middle of the Ohio State section. Do I want to do that? I don't know if I do. And he ended up just waiting outside the stadium. Smart decision on him.
Yeah.
You know, that was a good decision. I feel bad for the Duck fans that spent all that money and didn't get their money's worth. I will say, though, no one left at halftime.
That's good.
Like, the Duck fans came out, and then Oregon started the second half with that drive. They score a touchdown, and the fans were into it. The defense was – everybody on the sideline was getting animated. It felt like Oregon was still in the game, and the fans were still into it up until about the fourth quarter.
You know, and Dan said in his post-conference, Dan Lanning mentioned, you know, that he never saw any quit. The fight was there with the team all the way through. I mean, obviously, you get to the fourth quarter, you kind of can read the writing on the wall by that point. But that's good to know that, you know, people stuck around. Mentioning Kyle again, you know, we've been I'm on the morning on the news station, so we have a banter, a little back and forth through that. He was telling me that he knew of, and now I take some of this with a grain of salt. Kyle is not a sports guy, and him dipping his toes into this realm always a little interesting. But that he knew of people that were like legitimately, seriously trying to craft some way of like, I want my money back for how bad this was. And it's like
I don't know if you. No.
I just shake my head at that. I mean, fans that are like that, like, if that's the way you're going to be, then just don't go to games.
Just don't go to games. I don't think there's nothing in your ever experience, at least my experience as a sports fan, that ever makes you think, oh, I'm going to get my money back because my team didn't win.
No, there's no way.
There's no way. Like, how
you got what you paid for, and what you paid for was access to go to a game to watch two teams play football.
You got to watch a college football playoff football game at the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is an insane experience. The weather's phenomenal. The lighting on the mountains and the backdrop's incredible.
What if it was overcast and rainy? You know, are people going to be like, I didn't get the sunset going into the fourth quarter. I want my money back. I'm like, no, you got what you're paying for is a seat in the stadium to watch two teams play football. That's what you got. There's no guarantee on the results. There's no guarantee on the experience. It is what it is. And if that really was your take, I almost started, like, if it would have been a sports talk show and Kyle had brought that up at that time, well, we got other things to talk about, because I could have really started ripping into people about this one, because I was like, you got to be kidding me. These fans are a joke then.
That is a joke. You're not a fan if you
really wrote out some sort of lengthy possible legal reasoning on why you deserve your money back, then you are an absolute joke, and don't ever buy a ticket again.
No.
Like, you're not a true fan. Like, I told them, that's why they call them fanatics. I mean, you are a fan. It's just, people can be crazy, and
this isn't DraftKings. You can't get money back or whatever it is.
I mean, like, you're not getting money back from them either. if that's your chance.
I know. The only case where I'd like be like, okay, you can get your money back is like a situation like this year where like Army's playing a team and like Marshall, you're a Marshall fan, you pay all this money for your tickets to go to the Army Marshall game, and then all of a sudden your coach leaves and your entire team leaves and you don't have enough players to play the bowl game. If you spent money as a Marshall fan to go to this game and your team bows out, then you can get your money back.
Yeah, if the team you went to go see, if there was a last-second change to if you bought tickets to go see Dead & Co. and they suddenly came out and said, oh, sorry, it's going to be I was trying to think of somebody else, but somebody completely different. But you know, if you buy tickets to go see a game or a movie or whatever, and they tell you, "Oh, sorry, we don't have the latest movie. Here's here's Snow White." I don't know why that's the name that just popped up. But you know,
you're trying to go see the new Bob Dylan movie, and you're like, here's Snow White.
Yeah. Here's Blue's Clues. Here's
dude, Bluey is on the
I know. So if that was your case, you got a case there. But if what you paid for were the two teams that were playing in that game, then you got no excuse.
I'd like Kyle to give us the names.
Would like to know.
I want to know the names.
People that thought that they could really get their money back.
Is he making this up? Because I feel like he's making this up.
That's what I was thinking.
Like it has to be made up. Like, because I don't think there is a single person I've ever met that's been like, yeah, well, the team didn't play well, so I deserve my money back.
Yeah.
Like that seems like a snarky Kyle type of joke that he thinks he's being funny or clever, but he's not. Like, I just don't think he fully grasps it.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. So the Rose Bowl did not go well. Another comment here on the YouTube stream. It's your dad watching with us there on YouTube at 1490 The Score on YouTube, saying as he was waiting in the parking lot, he did see a couple of Ducks fans leaving at halftime. He asked them if they were giving up. They said absolutely not, but that Ohio State fans were getting handsy and they didn't want to have a fight.
No, there's multiple people that I heard say this. In fact, even Kyle Clements, our good buddy down in Medford, who works for Ace Radio, I think it is.
The Ace.
The Ace down there, the sports station down in Medford. He was texting me afterwards, and he was there as a fan.
Oh,
he went to the game as a fan.
Okay.
His family, he's from Orange County, and so him, his wife, and his family went to the game. And he texted me right after the game. The game was brutal, but the Ohio State fans were just awful. Some of the worst people I've ever met.
Wow.
They were just absolutely rude.
So I went to the Oregon-Ohio State game at Autzen Stadium. Now, granted, they're on enemy turf there. Maybe they're on better behavior at that point in time. But every Ohio State fan I ran into at Autzen Stadium in that whole experience, they were very pleasant. They had great things to say about their experience at Autzen Stadium. They were rooting for their team and having fun and whatnot, but they didn't get out of hand. It was a close game, so the environment is a lot different, I guess, in the fact that it was neck and neck. It was nip and tuck on who was going to win that game, so you don't have a lot of reason to have a ton of bravado because it may come back to bite you. Whereas at the Rose Bowl, they had a huge lead, so I think they felt pretty comfortable and they could start sowing some oats on all of that. I guess maybe just the environment being different, that it's a neutral site and their team was winning handily, could maybe allow it to get out of hand. But the experience I had with Ohio State fans at Autzen was they were very pleasant and great fans to be around in the stadium.
I've been to a few Ohio State games outside of just being a fan. Like I've been to Ohio State games when they're just playing a game and I'm not a fan of either team. Mm-hmm. And I've certainly been there when the Ohio State fans are loud, rude, and obnoxious. They're very confident in their group.
And I mean, that for sure.
They think they're the best. It's kind of like
there's a reason why they are the Ohio State.
Yes, exactly. It's like the Ohio State University. And sometimes when you talk to people, they're just so brainwashed into believing it's Ohio versus everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're the best and there's nobody that can touch us. And when you live on this high pedestal, if somebody, spits on your shoes a little bit, they go 100% against you. And that's kind of their mentality. And maybe it was a little bit different at Autzen Stadium because at that point, there wasn't really any bad blood between Oregon and Ohio State. I think Ohio State leads the series overall, 9-2. And the two losses were the one in 2021, Mario Cristobal pulling off the upset of all upsets with Justin Flo and Kayvon out before the game. Oregon goes in and wins at the Horseshoe, and then this year Oregon winning against Ohio State. It wasn't like we haven't really threatened Ohio State before as Oregon fans, and now that Oregon gave Ohio State a loss in the middle of the season, and that loss certainly sat with them for a long time. They wanted this one.
Yeah,
back.
They did.
And they were pent up. After losing to Michigan, they needed something to go their way.
They really did.
They finally just unleashed it. The other thing, too, is sorry. Long way to get to this, but for Oregon fans, you know what the other sentiment was that I was hearing a lot, especially in my group chat? Chip Kelly sucks. Where was that on January 1st, 2010? He just decides to do that for Ohio State. What, living in LA was too tough? Making $8 million a year? Living it up as the head coach at UCLA? But no. You want to go be this, the stepson for Ryan Day and go and do that against Oregon? Where was that, buddy? You had the opportunity to win the national championship for the Ducks and you just come away with that and you're doing that for Ohio State? Come on.
Yeah. No, I definitely had some sour grapes in my mouth with Chip Kelly, too. dude's going to go and win a national championship as an assistant coach, as an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Yeah, that definitely
right?
stung a little bit too. I did have some of those thoughts.
Do you have some of those thoughts?
Yeah.
What about Charles Loughlin? Or Carlos Loughlin, like the running back coach last year, soft batch of cookies. Like, you're gonna come here, you're gonna be a tough running back. What is it? We have a place for soft batch cookies. It's called the transfer portal, and then he just leaves right after saying that. Like 2 weeks later, goes to Ohio State. It makes me mad.
Yeah, I can believe that. That's for sure. All right, let's get to a break. When we come back, there was news out today that the Mountain West is adding a new school for football as the future of conference realignment is continuing to come together. And Knight had a thought that, maybe the Pac-12 is not going to be that good when it comes to what the future has in store.
In terms of football.
Yeah, we will take a look at this and dive into it when we come back. It is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by our friends at BTB Moving here on The Score.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. In high school hoops, the North Douglas basketball teams got off to a strong start in the Bandon Dunes tournament on Thursday. The North Douglas boys defeated South Umpqua 58-47, and the North Douglas girls handled Myrtle Point in a 55-25 victory. The boys advance to face off against Bandon today in the tourney at 7:30 p.m., and the girls are taking on Coquille this afternoon at 3 p.m. The South Umpqua boys will try to bounce back against Lapine today at 1:30 p.m. The South Umpqua girls lost their tourney opener 44-34 against Pacific. The Lady Lancers continue play at noon against Siuslaw. In other games happening today, the Roseburg Indians return to the floor after the holiday break. The boys are in Troutdale to face off against the Reynolds Raiders at 6:30 p.m. The RHS girls will host Reynolds tonight at 6:45 p.m. You can tune in for coverage of the girls' game, starting with the pregame show at 6:30 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. Or you can watch the live video simulcast online at 541radio.com. The Douglas boys and girls will host North Valley. The Oakland Oakers are hosting a holiday tournament for both boys and girls teams. Glide squares off with Days Creek. The Oakland boys take on Oak Ridge while the girls host Elkton. And Camas Valley travels to Monroe for both the boys and girls games. On the wrestling mats today, the Roseburg Indians begin competition in the Doc B Invitational in Clovis, California. Check out the full schedule of today's events online at 541radio.com. In college hoops, the misery for the Oregon Duck fans continued yesterday. One day after the number 1 ranked Oregon football team was upset in the college football playoffs, the number 9 Oregon men's basketball team suffered one of its worst losses in more than half of a century. The Ducks lost to number 22 Illinois 109-77 in a Big Ten battle at Matthew Knight Arena.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs. High school hoops are back. It might be getting cold outside, but we're headed indoors where things are heating up.
At the horn, no, Roseburg wins.
Catch Roseburg basketball games all season long on The Score. The Indians will battle it out in the Southwest Conference for a shot at the postseason. Find our broadcast schedule at 541radio.com and on the 541 Radio app. And tune in for Roseburg basketball on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM, or watch the live video simulcast at 541radio.com. Back here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available, so book now at 541-315-0122 or find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Well, I wanted to shift gears from the Rose Bowl and the college football playoff a little bit here because Knight brought this up as we were getting ready to put together the show for today, that there was news out. It looks like multiple places have confirmed this now, that Northern Illinois, really right there in the heart of the Rockies, joining the Mountain West Conference.
So wild.
Just amazing.
Everything about Berkeley, California and Palo Alto, California remind me of the Atlantic coast.
Yeah.
Louisville, Kentucky. Big Atlantic coast city.
On the conference realignment front, I was last night I was freelancing for Illinois and their broadcast team. So I was up there setting up their gear as the broadcasters were getting ready for the game. But a lot of talk about the fact that their audience, that game tipped off at 7 o'clock, 7:10 to be exact.
Yeah.
Their audience is all back in Illinois that's obviously going to be where a heart of their audience is. 2 hours behind us there. So 9 o'clock start time for that game for all the Illinois fans for a top 25 showdown. That was like going into it, billed as a big showdown between Oregon and Illinois. Now, Oregon didn't show up, theme of the week right now, but the whole conference realignment thing, that definitely came up quite a bit. Talking about their broadcaster puts out a thing before the game, where are you listening to the game from, and he reads out some of the responses throughout the game about where people are tuning in, and a lot of comments were brewing a pot of coffee for the rest of this game, working graveyard for this game, in bed trying to stay awake listening to the game. So it is interesting, kind of hearing it from that Midwestern point of view as they come out here to the West Coast for these games and these contests here. But conference realignment continues. The Mountain West, the Pac-12 trying to rebuild their conferences to get ready for when all these new changes are. The Pac-12 had 2 years to get to a certain number to be a full-fledged conference by the standards of the NCAA. And so they are working on that. They still need one more team.
They have 1 year now.
They've got one more year left to go to try and find one more team for football to make them a full-fledged member of the NCAA as a conference. For the Mountain West, did this get them there? Does this suffice now? Are they fully loaded for football?
Oh, they've been fully loaded.
Okay.
They already had 8.
And they're getting more?
Now they got 9. So that's the thing, man, is that the Pac-12 still needs to add another football school.
So you were making a point, though, about this edition that you were saying you think the Mountain West could be the more premier conference than the Pac-12.
What I'm saying is the Mountain West is in better shape right now than the Pac-12 in terms of where they stand football-wise, because the Mountain West Conference now, sure, you're losing Boise State, you're losing Colorado State, you're losing Utah State, you're losing Fresno State, but you still retain some big pieces. You're retaining UNLV, who was, a football game away from being in the College Football Playoff this year. They beat Boise State in the Mountain West Championship game. All of a sudden, we're talking about the UNLV Rebels being in the College Football Playoff. So you still got a good team there. You bring in UTEP, who is in a big market in El Paso, kind of a little bit of a sleeping market of sorts, but those fans in El Paso certainly get at it. They're excited to be joining the Mountain West for a lot of different reasons, mainly for basketball, because they have some ties with a school like UNLV, like Nevada, who's still going to be in the Mountain West Conference. You bring in Northern Illinois, who is the MAC's winningest program. So you have the top team from the MAC coming into the Mountain West Conference. You retain those big pieces like UNLV, like Nevada. You still have San Jose State, a pretty big market in the Bay Area. Sure, they're not doing well television-wise, but you still have that big market to check off. And you're in multiple different time zones. You're across 4 different time zones because you added Hawaii as a full member. So you have the Hawaiian time zone, you have the California time zone, you have the Mountain time zone, and then you have the Central time zone. So 4 time zones that you're taking up for your television contract, which is huge for the Mountain West Conference. And in addition to all that, by already getting Hawaii, by already getting UTEP, all of a sudden, in addition to Northern Illinois, you've positioned yourself to a point where you've gotten the Pac-12's top targets, including GCU for basketball. So yes, Pac-12 is getting Gonzaga for basketball, and I think the Pac-12 conference is going to be a very good basketball conference in terms of adding San Diego State to the mix with Washington State and Oregon State and the limited success that they've had already. But at the end of the day, like, the Mountain West is also in pretty good shape, and the Pac-12 doesn't have many options to select from. I think right now, my question for you is, who does the Pac-12 add? Because if you're trying to even things up with the Mountain West and you need another program, to me, the only option that I could see right now is adding Sacramento State. And I don't know if Sacramento State's going to move the needle and make it that much better of a conference over the Mountain West.
Well, see, I would just say I think the top end of the future Pac-12 is got to be stronger than the future Mountain West, with Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State. For basketball, Gonzaga is better than anything that anybody. I mean, they're better than pretty much most of what the old Pac-12 was. I mean, Arizona, UCLA, obviously big-time names and programs.
Sure.
But Gonzaga is up there. I mean, so that alone is like...
For basketball, I fully agree.
For sure, that is huge.
I think the Pac-12 is going to be like the Big East of West Coast college basketball in terms of that conference and what they're able to do. But at the end of the day, like, you still need another football member.
You need football.
Because if you enter next year without a football team added to the mix, then guess what? That basketball conference also crumbles.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think they add some, if it's Sacramento State, okay. I think that's, I know it's not ideal.
But who else?
I know it's not, I don't know. I honestly don't know what the options are out there. I would have to look into it more, but I don't know what the options are out there. But who's in the Mountain West? Who's the future teams in the Mountain West again?
UNLV, you got Air Force who's in there. You got Hawaii, you got Nevada, you got Wyoming, and you got San Jose State. Plus you got UTEP, New Mexico, and Northern Illinois in terms of football. Plus you also have Hawaii and UC Davis. UC Davis for all sports but football.
So I think the new Pac-12 will have a better top end than the future Mountain West
if they get there. But the point that I'm making,
well, see, that's why I'm saying, just if it has to be Sacramento State to make you get there, then so be it. But I think if you add Sacramento State,
you're going to the option though. That's my point.
They want to move up.
This is why I think the Mountain West is in better position, is because they've really gotten the teams that were potential options for the Pac-12. Texas State ain't leaving. I don't think UTSA is leaving. I don't think that
this to me strikes me. So fantasy football, there are times where your team's good, but there's a guy on the waiver wire that could help somebody else's team. So what do? You add him to your team to make sure that somebody else doesn't add him. What's he going to do on your team? Nothing. He's going to be at the bottom of the bench, not even see any chance to break into the starting lineup, right? That is a strategy for fantasy football, is steal the guys off the waiver wire so that somebody else can't get him and hurt you on the other side. So that's what the Mountain West is doing. They are stealing the trash off the waiver wire to stick them at the bottom of
you're calling the winningest program in the MAC history trash?
No.
Yes, that's exactly what you just did.
But does that really move the needle? I mean, I know they're a good program. Are they better than Boise State? Are they?
They beat Notre Dame this year.
That is true. They did do that. I'm just saying.
Did Boise State beat a top 4 team?
I'm just saying
now?
Hawaii. I mean, the Mountain West grabbing these schools. Okay, so you're taking the other options away from the Pac-12. But what are these options? I mean, Northern Illinois, great. That's a good football it's a good football program. Is it a great football program? It's a good football program. So, okay, they've got that one. But I mean, I think your top end crop in the Pac-12 is good enough and better than the Mountain West, that if you add one mediocre cupcake to your schedule, look at Sacramento State. They're looking to invest a bunch of money into their program, into a football stadium. Like, that could turn into being a program that's like, we'll go out and play there.
So could UTEP. Like, UTEP in a bigger conference, who knows? Maybe the Miners have a little bit more. You know how big El Paso is? El Paso's a big metropolitan area.
Yeah. Does it move the needle for media stuff and whatnot there? No, but it does get you to where you need to be a full conference. And that's, right now,
Mountain West is a full conference.
Oregon, or the Pac-12's options are limited. I will give you that. And so right now they just got to do what they got to do. I think they've built a solid lineup of what they've got in there that I think it'll be a respectable conference no matter. The thing is to me that I don't think the 8th team is going to do enough to swing the needle one way or the other. So to me, it doesn't really matter who they add. They've put together just a solid lineup and get the team that makes the most sense, that can get in. You can get into your conference, and then we move forward.
Why not add like Portland State?
Well, I mean, is Portland State looking to move up?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Sacramento State is.
Would you? Do you think the addition of UTEP or Sacramento State is more valuable to a conference?
I think they're both negligible.
Really?
Like I mean, sure, maybe I mean, Sacramento, that's a fairly large media market, right?
I agree. And I hope they invest. They just, if you've seen their facilities now, and sure, they have quote unquote donors that say they're going to donate this X amount of money once they join the Pac-12, but they're not putting that money into that program right now. Show it before you do it. Like, really, like if you want to talk all this talk about, oh, we're going to invest right now. If you're putting up 20 to 40 million at the FCS level, sure, then maybe you can get a new stadium. Maybe then you can have the NIL to sustain a program at the Division I FBS level. But I just don't believe it until I see it.
I would ask you that, is UTEP going to make your conference that much more, give your conference that much more legitimacy to try and get your conference champ? Because neither of these leagues, for football we're talking about, neither of these leagues are going to be more than a one-bid league into the college football playoff if they're getting a team in, right?
Yeah.
Like neither of these are going to be more than that.
And here's my thing.
Does UTEP or Sacramento State do anything more to getting your conference champion more legitimacy to getting into the college football playoff?
I honestly don't know. Like,
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does for either team.
I don't think it does for either league.
To be honest, I think the American's in the best spot right now. Like, if you're looking at the G5 like bid that you're going to get, it's most likely going to come from the American, in my opinion.
I mean, that's fair enough, but I mean, you were bringing it up about the Mountain West and the Pac-12.
Because I think that right now the Mountain West is in a better position than the Pac-12, meaning that
they've got 8 teams.
They have the 8 teams. They have 9 teams now competing for football. And in addition to that, they've already taken some of the top offers, the top options away from the Pac-12. And so now you're really, as a Pac-12 conference, looking at it like, I guess maybe we can get Sac State to jump up. And, you know, it hasn't always worked out on the West Coast. Remember, Idaho made the jump from FCS to FBS, and what happened? They fizzled out, and they went back to the FCS ranks. At a certain point, like, you got to get somebody legit, and there just isn't enough programs on the West Coast. Honestly, the kill shot would be getting UNLV to break away from the Mountain West and join the Pac-12. If you add UNLV...
I mean, that would be huge because you're taking probably the top, or at least one of the top
programs,
names and programs out of that Mountain West. That would be, for sure, major. That would swing the needle. Like, that would move the pendulum. That would... any other thing that swings from one side to the other, because apparently I'm naming them all off here. So yeah, I think the brand names in the Pac-12 right now, and I get it, they're not there yet, but they have no other option than to get there. Right?
Yes.
Like that's the only option. Now,
but
they have maybe options on how they get there, but there is no other option than to get there, because if you don't, the conference is going to crumble. Boise State's not sticking around to be in a group. It's not going to be a conference. It's going to be a group. You know, they're not hanging around to be a part of something that's not going to get them to that upper echelon in college football, which they have proven they can be a part of. So there is no option for failure for the Pac-12 if it wants to survive. So I have faith that they get to where they need to be. And once they add that final team to become a full-fledged member of the NCAA, I think they've got the product in there, no matter who that 8th team is, that they'll be, a strong enough program, and I would feel like better than the Mountain West.
My point is that if I'm the Pac-12, I would much rather add a UTEP, add a Hawaii, add a Northern Illinois than adding an FCS Sacramento State.
I completely agree. I 100% agree with you there.
And that's why I think the Mountain West in their position currently, what they've done has been a lot better for their conference than what the Pac-12 currently has available for them.
I mean, I would say that the Mountain West has done a great job of keeping themselves alive and keeping themselves viable.
Plus, the other thing, too, is that the Pac-12, you're going to have to pay $55 million, $19 million per school for poaching those schools away from the Mountain West. Oh, you got all that money from the Big Ten and ACC when your teams bounce to a new conference, and now you don't want to pay that money? Guess what? That money's going to go to the Mountain West, and those
will it though? Because they're
trying to get a
because
lawsuit.
they're not taking those. And I haven't read up on this stuff since a lot of this was going down months and months ago. But the Mountain West media rights deal were up at the time when the Pac-12 needed to have their new members joining their conference. That's when the Mountain West Conference media rights deal was done. So what's to say that those schools can't? They're not leaving their they're not leaving their league until their media rights they have fulfilled their contract, and they should be open to be able to go do something else.
As far as I know, at least what I was reading earlier this morning is that there is a lawsuit pending. The Pac-12 does not want to pay that money, obviously, the same way that the Big Ten schools and the ACC schools that left the Pac-12 didn't want to pay that money and filed a lawsuit. They eventually lost the lawsuit, and they have to pay the money.
But see, they all broke media deals to leave.
And I think the Mountain West still has a media deal.
But their media deal ended. As far as I remember, there were 2 years left on their.
They don't have a media deal.
No, there were 2 years left on their media deal when all this stuff started, and at the end of their current media deal was when the Pac-12 needed to add these members to become a full-fledged thing. So the way I remember reading it, and again, this is old stuff that's in the back of my brain here, so forgive me if it's wrong, but the way I remember reading about it was that the timing was that if the Pac-12 was willing to wait out this 2-year grace period they get from the NCAA, that's when the media rights deal for the Mountain West wraps up, and those schools would be able to then move to a new conference and not have to pay all those rights, all those fees, because they're not leaving and breaking a contract. Their contract has been fulfilled, and now they could be open to explore other options, is kind of what I remembered reading. So. It'll be interesting. It's definitely, we're into the off season. It is now kind of looking forward what is going to be there for both the Mountain West and for the Pac-12. Obviously, very interested to see what happens for the Oregon State Beavers and what their future has in store. I will say this, I'm excited about the Beavers in the West Coast Conference because I'm getting a chance to do some gigs for them, and I get to go to Gonzaga and get to do the game when Gonzaga comes to Oregon State, and it's going to be fun to see those Bulldogs. I mean, I got to imagine that I don't know if they're going to kill Oregon State, but I got to imagine that they'll win. But nonetheless, it'll be cool to see the Bulldogs up close.
Mm-hmm. That'll be fun.
Yeah, should be. All right, we get to a break. When we come back, speaking of lawsuits, Knight found some empirical data that might help out Kyle's friends that wanted to sue about getting their money back from the Rose Bowl. Also, we had some uniform talk that I wanted to get to, and as well, the Tennessee Oilers. Yeah, it used to be a thing. We'll discuss as we come back with more of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving here on The Score.
Oregon's only statewide sports talk show wants to hear from you, Douglas County.
Sean is in Roseburg. Sean, welcome.
The Bald-Faced Truth with John Canzano is talking Beavers, Ducks, the NFL, Blazers, and more.
Let's go to Daryl, who's in Myrtle Creek.
Share your opinions by calling 503-417-7575.
Let's go to the phone lines. Kelly is in Glide, Oregon. Is that right, Kelly?
That's right. Hi. I can't believe you took my call.
Sports talk for Oregonians. It's the Bald-Faced Truth with John Canzano. Weekdays 3 to 6 on The Score.
From opening night to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, don't miss a second of the NFL this season. Hi, this is Kurt Warner of Westwood One. Join our crew each week for the best in primetime NFL action. Monday night, Sunday night, and Thursday night football, plus marquee games on Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, and more. Westwood One is the exclusive radio home for every primetime and postseason game. It's right here.
On your home for the NFL, The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Man, I loved playing high school sports growing up. And it's fun being a fan now, don't get me wrong, but sitting in the stands feels like I'm missing out on all the action, you know? I wanted to get back in the game. So I signed up to be a high school official. It takes me back to my playing days. I'm supporting students, and I get paid to make the big calls. Do you want to see the game up close? Sign up to become an official in Oregon at highschoolofficials.com.
Struggling to find good help? Streamline your recruitment all in one place. Lotus Media Group. With our innovative and time-tested solutions, you can reach candidates across all platforms by utilizing the power of print, radio, and digital advertising, and elevate your hiring game with Indeed, Google Jobs, ZipRecruiter, and over a dozen more. Whether you're a small or large business, we have flexible pricing packages to fit any budget. Indeed, we do. Visit nrtoday.com/recruitment and let us do all the work for you.
At Midas, you'll find all the expertise you need to take care of your car. From advanced engine diagnostics and major repairs to oil changes, brakes, and maintenance. You can count on Midas to tell you what needs fixing now and tell you what stuff can wait. So whether your check engine light just went on or you remembered that it's time for your regularly scheduled oil change, now's the time to head over to your locally owned and operated Midas on 1068 Northeast Stevens in Roseburg. Because when your car isn't working right, you just need someone who can help make your life a little easier. Trust the Midas touch.
Along with Nate Jarecki, I'm Joey Keeran. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Thanks for spending some time with us here on your Friday. Hopefully you are surviving the gray and the rain that is winter here in Oregon.
Dude, I gotta say, I appreciate it.
I mean,
like
you got to see the sunshine recently, so yeah, of course.
I did, and I went back to California, and it made me appreciate living in Roseburg, Oregon. Great place to live, by the way.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take you an hour to get across town, so that's nice.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't take 20 minutes to get into the Costco parking lot just to get into the parking lot for gas. Like, literally, it's like a 35-minute experience just to get gas at Costco. And don't even get me started on the gas prices. Like, I saw stuff as high as $5.99 for gas. That's $3 a gallon more than what you could pay at the Costco here in Roseburg.
Yeah, the rain. I'm not like gonna say I'm tired of the rain or whatever, but man, it has been nonstop lately, and I
will say I did leave at a great time because it looked like the flooding was crazy.
The river levels definitely were up there pretty good. It was something. So I was driving back from Eugene last night, and it was just like, man, so much freaking rain. It is crazy.
Yeah,
never let up from Eugene all the way back down to Roseburg. It was just the entire way. So, so hopefully you're doing all right with your seasonal depression here as we get 2025 underway. I just stumbled across this on Twitter earlier today before we got on the airwaves, and this is apparently, it deals with my Tennessee Titans. Now, they are going into a matchup against Houston, needing to lose to make sure that they lock up at least the number 2 spot in the NFL draft. It is always a dang shame when you got to root for your team to lose. But they are facing the Houston Texans, and this is the Tennessee Titans, who used to be the Tennessee Oilers, who used to be the Houston Oilers. Yes. It is a throwback day, and they are going to be wearing their Oiler uniforms. And this is from the Heed the Call podcast, where one of the hosts on the show apparently does not like the throwbacks for the Tennessee Titans.
I want to mention that the Titans will be wearing their Oilers throwback uniforms. You remember last time they wore them against the Texans, which was a disgrace. I mean,
they always wear them against the Texans because
there is zero respect towards this team when they do this. I don't know why they do this. It is disgraceful.
It is thumbing right in the eyes of Houston football fans that love their Oilers.
Looney Tunes style.
I curse you, Tennessee Titans. The Titans, listen up, Kaharski and all you other goons. I curse your franchise until you stop wearing the Oilers throwback uniforms. I curse you.
What are you? This is Bud Adams' team's legacy. His daughter has the uniforms. Like, Houston,
curse you.
Like, so you're saying the Ravens should roll into Cleveland in Browns uniforms?
Houston would not pay for a stadium. The city would not pay. Bud Adams gave them every chance, and they would not pay for it. And he said, fine, I'm taking my team and its entire history somewhere else. We don't have to do this right now, but this is a bad take by you guys.
We're going to do it right now. So.
Okay, that guy, the second guy, whoever he was smart. He like, what are the Ravens going to do? Pull up in Browns uniforms?
Right.
How do they feel about the Colts wearing their Colts uniforms when they play the Ravens? Like, who cares? It was the Baltimore Colts, and then they became the Indianapolis Colts, and what do they wear? They wear the blue and white.
Yeah.
Like, it's silly. I don't have a problem with it, If you are that organization and you still have the record books, it's not like the Houston Texans have the Houston Oilers organization and franchise history. No, they're a new expansion team. It's the same thing that's happening right now in the NHL. The Utah Hockey Club bought the players for the team, but kept the rights for the Arizona Coyotes in the record books in Arizona. So when a team comes back in Arizona eventually, which is the goal, they'll get a new stadium and get a new team there. Then they'll have the rights to the uniforms and the player history. The Texans don't have that. Who cares? That history's not tied down to your city. Your city's football team, the Houston Texans, their history starts with the Houston Texans. It doesn't start with the Houston Oilers.
And they literally were, for two seasons, the Tennessee Oilers. So it is... We were really in sync there. It is... I mean, it's legitimate to go back to a throwback uniform. Maybe they're not throwing it back to the Houston Oilers. Maybe they're throwing it back to the Tennessee Oilers. I've got a license plate from 1996 that sees it's a license plate clock that is the Tennessee Oilers. That is, we brought in some new decorations in the studio here. My Blazers glasses from. Those are the originals. Those are the first from Mr. Clyde Drexler right there. I've also got Uncle Cliffy there, Cliff Robinson, Terry Porter on one of the originals, and then a couple of the newer ones that they did a number of seasons ago with LaMarcus Aldridge and Wesley Matthews.
Did you used to just buy these at like Dairy Queen?
They used to get them at Dairy Queen. Yeah, it was some kind of a giveaway thing. Like you probably bought a certain meal and got a Blazers glass.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, and I feel like we used to have more, but those are from my childhood back in the day when we lived in Portland, and the Cliff Robinson and the Terry Porter and Clyde Drexler. Those are legitimately owned and operated from the Keeran family from years and years and years ago. So, but anyways, I was digging through all the boxes of memorabilia I have in my office there at the house that I have not unpacked in the 5 years we've lived there, and finally trying to get some of it out. And I saw that license plate thing. I was like, man, I need to get this out somewhere. But so, yeah, I mean, I got no problem with it. I just thought you would probably have a unique take on the fact that your team recently moved from Oakland to Las Vegas. They also were in Los Angeles at one point.
They were.
So, they've kind of been all over the place.
Thankfully, though, they've kept the name consistent. It was the Oakland Raiders, and then they were the Los Angeles Raiders, and then there was a short period of time where they were maybe going to be the Irwindale Raiders. That didn't happen, and then they moved back to Oakland.
That would have been a weird name.
Yeah. We have, like, friends, like, because we had Raider season tickets growing up. There's, like, one of our friends that has a pin that says, like, I love the Irwindale Raiders or something like
That's a good piece of memorabilia.
Really great.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then they went back to Oakland. Crazy. Oakland, LA, back to Oakland, and then they went to Las Vegas. They've stayed the Raiders the entirety of the time. So that it makes it a little bit easier.
And I would just say, I think somebody went on to say that, like, if you were a Houston Oilers fan, like, and you were really devoted to the team, like you weren't butthurt that they moved, like, wouldn't you have just stayed an Oilers fan as they moved to Tennessee and then continue to root the team on as they changed to the Titans? Like, I don't understand. Like, if you were really that devoted that you're going to get all sorts of hurt that they wear the throwback uniforms, which they have the right to, like, wouldn't you have just stayed a fan of the team and then you probably enjoy the fact that they honored the team back when they were in Houston in your area?
Well, yeah, and the other thing, too, is that, like you said, they were the Tennessee Oilers for a couple of seasons, so it's not like they're necessarily fully throwing it back to Houston.
It's not like Baltimore, yeah.
Or I don't know. Like, I think it's a bad take. Like, I understand how you could be like, oh, this is so disrespectful, but who cares? Like, again, it's all about the rights and it's all about the history, and the history is that the Houston Oilers moved to Tennessee, became the Tennessee Oilers, and then they eventually rebranded to the Tennessee Titans. It happens. I don't know what St. Louis fans are feeling. Like, are St. Louis fans Rams fans now? And
are they upset when they wear like their? I mean, I guess they don't go back to St. Louis to play, but
well, yeah, but like if they like for some reason wore like the navy blue and like the gold uniforms
with the ram horns on the helmet and stuff.
Like, are they mad about that?
Yeah.
Like, come on, get over yourself.
I guess would Supersonics fans be upset if the Oklahoma City Thunder wore Sonics jerseys?
You know, that's the thing is that like the Memphis Grizzlies wear the Vancouver Grizzlies jerseys.
Yeah.
Like, does that mean anything? Like, are the Vancouverites, upset about that? The other day, actually, it was pretty heat for Canadian basketball fans out there. The Raptors wore their purple Dino uniforms,
nice.
And then the Grizzlies wore the Vancouver Grizzlies. So that was like kind of cool.
Those are always slick.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of fans being a little bit crazy, you found some data.
My dad sent me an article. He's listening to the show.
Real quick, we'll get this in here. So maybe those fans that apparently Kyle Bailey knew that fans wanted to sue the Rose Bowl to get their money back because the Ducks played so poorly in the game. Maybe they've got a case.
So UPI in 1981. This is November 11th, 1981.
UPI is like what is now like the Associated Press. So
a disgruntled Chicago Bears fan who sued the club for misrepresenting itself as a professional football team has been thrown out for a lawsuit by another Bears supporter, one wearing a black robe. The judge, Judge Craig Peterson from Winnebago County, which is just a phenomenal county name, dismissed James Tooley's small claims following a 12-minute hearing. There are many things I could say. I've been a Bears fan for a long time, the judge said. Ultimately, the guy was suing for $58 for 2 tickets, gasoline, highway tolls, and a babysitter fee because the Bears claimed that they were a professional football team. He did not feel the same way. But the judge said that turnovers and incomplete passes and interceptions are not sufficient enough evidence.
Yeah, I just love that $58 covered his trip to go to an NFL game.
Back in the day, 2 tickets, gasoline, highway tolls, and a babysitter fee in 1981. But fumbles and interceptions do not qualify as misrepresentation.
Not too shabby. That is going to do it for the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here on this Friday. I hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week. We'll got more college football playoff games to get to coming up, and looking forward to talking about all of that with you. This has been the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving here on The Score. Whether it's across town or the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving.